Hey everyone, how's it going? Matthew Bailey here, and welcome to another Top Things video. And yet, before I get into it, yes, I know it's been over 2 weeks since I last uploaded, but it's because it was Christmas break. I thought I would be able to do some videos then, but I was sort of busy with having to go to work and doing stuff with my family, so now I'm doing a video for you guys again, and this time it is going to be on my picks for my top favorite movies of the last decade. That's right. This is the first time I'm doing a decade video where I do my picks for the best films that I saw from the year 2010 until the year 2019. So like I said, you're only gonna see movies that were released during those years, and what this. Unlike some of my last top 10 videos or top things videos, this is going to be a little different. Each time I'm going to do the movies that I liked per year. So then I have a few years where there were at least 2 movies I really enjoyed from that year. So what's going to happen is that I'm going to say one movie, then it goes to another movie, and then it will go to the next year. So that's how I'm going to do this. So without further ado, let's get into my picks for the best films of the last decade. So kicking off the best films of the decade in 2010, as you can see, is Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows Part 1. I gotta say, I loved the Harry Potter franchise growing up, and like I said, part 1 is just the final installment of the first part of the final installment of the franchise, and I really loved how they did this part, or whatever, how they split the movie into 2 parts, and I'm actually surprised that this is the only one they did, that this is the one they did that to, because I mean the Order of the Phoenix, or whatever, at least in book form, was the biggest one out of all of the books, and I'm surprised that they didn't split that into 2 parts. But I think it was great that they did the 7th book that way, because it basically, since it's the last installment, it's like you wonder, it like leaves you on a cliffhanger on what happens next. And I mean, like I said, spoilers are going to be said for most of these movies, and so if you want to avoid spoilers, then just go and see the movie before you see this video. And like I said, the reason why I really enjoyed how they did this first part to the Deathly Hallows is, like I said, they have the main 3 protagonists going off on an adventure to destroy all of the Horcruxes that Voldemort made to keep him immortal. And I mean, their friendship is sort of tested along the way. We have some things that happen where favorite characters that die, like Mad-Eye Moody, and even our favorite little elf Dobby from Chamber of Secrets unfortunately dies in this movie. It was really upsetting to see that part, especially, but I gotta be honest. I gotta be honest. This movie was a great way to kick off the last installment of the Harry Potter franchise, and I'm really hoping that they fix what they've been doing with the Fantastic Beasts franchise, which is the prequel series to this. So hopefully they fix it. But for 2010, I have Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows Part 1. And now kicking off in the year 2011, as you can see, I had Part 1, so in the next year you obviously have Part 2 for Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows. I gotta say, this, like I said, just like how the first part was a good way to kick off the final installment, the Part 2 really ended it off great. I mean, we get to see the trio return to Hogwarts for the last time. We get to see a ginormous battle between good and evil on the Hogwarts grounds. It was just amazing. And I gotta say, there were a lot of, like, just like how there was at least 2 sad deaths in the last movie, this movie had a ton of deaths, I have to say. Like, we have Remus Lupin, who was the Defense Against the Dog teacher in Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban. We apparently have Fred Weasley, who is one of the twin brothers of Ron Weasley, who is one of the main protagonists. We have one of those 2 twins who were, I forgot their names, but the Batil girls is what I'm trying to say. But one of them, I think, died. It was pretty crazy, and then we get to see what happens after the battle. I mean, obviously they win, but we get to see, like, 19 years later, we get Harry and Ginny get together, which was sort of hinted to us during the start of the second movie, The Chamber of Secrets, which I thought was great. And then it even got hinted to us more, whatever, during Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince. But and then we also get to see a little connection between Ron and Hermione during Harry Potter 6, but that was when they mostly showed their true colors toward each other. And then it just kept going throughout the last 3 movies, and we get to see Draco, who was the sort of antagonist student for them, but he grew to be their lifelong best friend, and there's been a lot of rumors then that we could see the 8th book that got introduced, The Cursed Child, into a film adaptation. Now, I'm not sure if they're going to do like what they did with this one, where they have part 1 and part 2, because it is split into 2 parts, the 8th book. So, I'm curious to see if they actually do make a film adaptation of that book. But this book, or this movie, really ended off the series excellent. It was a great way to end off the Harry Potter franchise, and I'm just gonna say this right now, because even though it was 2011, they should not remake this series into film adaptations. They shouldn't, because if I remember correctly, I'm trying to remember who owned the rights to the Harry Potter franchise. I think it was Warner Brothers. I think, I'm not 100% sure, but I know for a fact that recently Disney has been buying off a lot of properties, like 20th Century Fox. They just bought all the rights to those film franchises. They've already confirmed a lot of movies that they're trying to remake, and one I know a lot of people are going to be pissed off about is Home Alone, which I'm not happy. I'm not happy about that. But anyway, I'm going off topic. So yeah, so this is only the first movie in 2011 that I really enjoyed. There is a number 2, so let's see what my second best film of 2011 is. And as you can see, my second favorite film from 2011 is a movie based on a true story called Dolphin Tale, where it is based on the true story of a young dolphin named Winter, who back in December of 2005 was caught in the ropes of a crab trap and lost circulation to her tail, and she inspired the people at the Clearwater Marine Aquarium to develop a prosthetic tail for her, which has never been done to any animal that was a marine animal, at least. So animals that live in the sea. I know there might have been prosthetics made for land animals, I think, but I'm not 100% sure. Let me know in the comment section below. But this is definitely the first time that they've ever developed a prosthetic for a marine mammal. And now, as soon as she got that prosthetic tail, she inspired so many people who, like, wounded soldiers and even people with disabilities like myself, to try to keep going in life. Like, never give up on life. Like, never give up on what you want to do. And the reason why I started doing this channel is because I wanted to move up to the point where I could possibly be in the media business one day. And hopefully I'll make it to that point. But yeah, in regards to this movie, I mean, I was truly inspired by this movie. Young Winter really inspired me to never give up on life, and to keep pushing towards my dreams. and just like she taught, inspired that young boy Sawyer in the movie, played by Nathan Gamble. And he's basically sort of around my age, but I'm really excited for the following. I heard there is gonna still be a third Dolphin Tale movie. That is still confirmed. I know I made a video about that way over a year ago before I moved out of my house and into this apartment. You can probably go down in my video section and find that. But and like I said, it's before I moved into the apartment. But yeah, I really enjoyed this movie. And I also enjoyed the second movie, but that's not in my year for 2014. But yeah, so for 2011, I also have Dolphin Tale. And now going into 2012, one of two of my favorite films from that year was obviously The Avengers, the very first team-up movie in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, with at least 6 of the members of the Avengers, which were Iron Man, Captain America, Thor, Hulk, Black Widow, and Hawkeye. And I gotta say, this movie was amazing. I mean, Josh Whedon really nailed this movie, and I mean, the only thing I was a bit surprised about when it comes to the accuracy to the comics was the character of Nick Fury. He was the one that I was a bit surprised about, because in the comics he's my skin color, and I was surprised. I mean, I still liked who they pitched for Nick Fury, which was Samuel L. Jackson. He did an amazing job, but I mean, I guess it's not bad to mix it up sometimes with from the comics, but and I can see that because, like, for example, in the comics, Shang-Chi's father is some guy named Fin Fang Foom, but in the movie that's going to be coming out next year, it's been confirmed that his father is actually going to be the Mandarin, who was never the father of Shang-Chi in the comics, but they're going to make it seem that the Mandarin is his father in that movie. So I'm really excited to see how that turns out. But yeah, The Avengers was amazing. You got Robert Downey Jr. as Tony Stark, which he was excellent in all the movies that he was in. We got Hulk, played by Mark Ruffalo. We got Chris Evans as Captain America, who he previously played another Marvel character, but that was part of Fox though, and that was the Human Torch, aka Johnny Storm. So, and we are gonna get the Fantastic Four in the MCU now, so we'll see how that goes. And Chris Hemsworth as Thor was amazing. I really am glad that they decided to make Chris Hemsworth Thor. But then we got Scarlett Johansson as Natasha Romanoff, aka Black Widow, who actually, surprisingly, I didn't realize this until I looked it up, but it turns out that Scarlett Johansson also played in the third Home Alone movie that a lot of people didn't really like. So it's crazy how she went from being in a bad movie to becoming part of the biggest universe in the movie history. But yeah, so for 2012, my first one has to go to The Avengers. And my last movie in 2012 that I really enjoyed was The Hunger Games. This is the very first film adaptation for the book series known as The Hunger Games, and I gotta say, it was amazing. I love the fact that they've been taking a lot of book series and turning them into film adaptations. I mean, they did that with they did this with Hunger Games. They started to do it with the Percy Jackson series, even though they only got through book 2, which I heard that is a series that Disney is going to try to remake now that they own Fox. So, and I'm not 100% sure if Fox also owned the Hunger Games, because if they do, they better not remake this series, because this first movie was amazing. It should not be changed, at least for a whole another 20 years into the future, because I just love the way they did this movie. We got Jennifer Lawrence as Katniss Everdeen, and we got the guy, I can't remember his exact name, but I know he portrayed a character in the Thor movie, which was really good. And then we got a lot of good actors that were in there, and just like they did with the Harry Potter series, they did the third book into two separate movies. So part 1 and part 2. So that was pretty cool. And I gotta say, this movie was incredible. I love the way they started off this franchise. They started off strong. And I can't wait to see what the future holds for this franchise. So, kicking off the year 2013, this is the only movie I have for this year, but you knew this was going to make it on the list probably, and that is Frozen. Frozen is my favorite movie from the year 2013, and I gotta say, Disney has really started stepping up their game with movies during this last decade. I mean, we got great movies like I said, Frozen. We also had Tangled back in 2010. We had Wreck-It Ralph, the sequel to Wreck-It Ralph. We had I don't know what other movies. We got like Disney Pixar sequels that were really good. What other movies did we get? We got a lot of live action Disney remakes too. Like we had remakes to The Lion King, Cinderella, Beauty and the Beast, upcoming Mulan. Well, I guess that's technically not part of the last decade, but still. We also had Sleeping Beauty, even though it was sort of based on Maleficent's story. Those were pretty good. I mean, we got a lot of stuff by Disney, and they really stepped up their game back in the year 2013. That was when they really started kicking it into high gear. Like I said, we had this movie, we had the Maleficent sequel movies, we had Cinderella, Beauty and the Beast. I don't remember what other movies came out, but I do know that Disney really stepped up their game during the last decade. But with Frozen, this was a good, interesting story. I have to say, I technically never saw it in theaters. I had to wait till it came out on DVD before I got a chance to watch it, and it was a really good storytelling. I mean, Josh Gad's character of Olaf was really funny, and I gotta say, this movie definitely deserved to be turned into a franchise, because I mean, it even got a sequel last year, and I mean, I guess that can be considered an honorable mention for that year, because I do have 2 movies in 2019 that I really enjoyed. But for this year, in 2013, I have Frozen. And moving into 2014, we have, as I said earlier, The Hunger Games Mockingjay Part 1. Now, I know that I didn't mention the Catching Fire movie, because like I said, that was released in 2013, but Frozen was pretty good. But this year, we get the third movie, Part 1, for The Hunger Games. This, like I said, it was just like they did with Harry Potter. It was a great way to end off the franchise. I mean, technically, the movie was released a year after the Part 2 of Harry Potter got released. So they just like how since they ended one movie franchise, they start another one. So yeah, Hunger Games Mockingjay Part 1 was amazing. We got to see the reveal of District 13 still being around. We got to see Katniss become the Mockingjay, which was the symbol for the revolution against the Capitol. It was amazing. And I mean, there was a little bit of tension between her and Peter, though, at the end of the movie, and which leads into Part 2. And I gotta say, it was epic, I have to say. 2014 was a good year for the Hunger Games, so like I said, for 2014, I gotta go with The Hunger Games Mockingjay Part 1. And kicking off in 2015, like I said, with Part 1, we have Hunger Games Mockingjay Part 2. I gotta say, this movie, like I said, was a fantastic way to end the Hunger Games franchise, and I was just so glad that they decided to do it like this. I mean, now there was one franchise that did kick off in the year 2014 when Part 1 got released, and that was the Divergent series, but it didn't do well once it got to this year because, I mean, it couldn't compete with this movie, and that was the Insurgent movie, but, I mean, they didn't even get to finish that series when you think about it. They were supposed to make it an Allegiant Part 2, but they didn't because of how bad the other movie did, and like I said, it probably could not compete with this movie. I mean, we got to see Katniss and her friends overthrow the Capitol, and not only did they kill Snow, but they also killed the leader of District 13 because Katniss realized how she was just gonna turn into Snow and make and like do the same thing to the Capitol people's children, and she realized that that's not how it should work, and it was just crazy. And like I said, even though this movie's been out for almost 5 years now, it's been rumored that there could be a prequel book and movie getting released that takes place 64 years before the first Hunger Games, which means it would take place during the 10th Hunger Games. And we might even see a younger version of Snow in that movie. We're definitely going to probably see how he came into power and all that sort of stuff. So that's going to be interesting to see how he comes into power. So, but yeah, 2015, I have to go with The Hunger Games Mockingjay Part 2. Finally, not finally, but now in the year 2016, we have Zootopia. Yep, Zootopia was my favorite film in 2016. I gotta say, like I said, Disney has really stepped up their game with movies in the last decade. I mean, like I said, they gave us Frozen, they gave us Zootopia, they gave us, I don't know, I think they gave us the Avengers movie because they did acquire Marvel back then. So, that's pretty good. And then we have, and then, like I said, Zootopia was amazing. It really nailed the story that they were trying to go towards, and when it comes to the difference between predator and prey. Now, there's been a lot of speculation that there could be a sequel to this movie, but I'm sort of having, like, scratching my head on wonder what the sequel is going to be about, especially after where the last one left us with the whole Judy and Nick possibly having a small little relationship, which would be the first time in Zootopia history where a predator and a prey are in love with each other. Like, that would just be crazy if they did that with the sequel. And a lot of people have even, like, made small animated videos on this platform about what would happen if they did have a kid of their own. Like, that would just, I swear, if that's the route they go, I'll be like, wow. But yeah, so we also, like I said, we're almost to the end of the decade, and like I said, this is the year that I technically started this channel. So it's really, I'm kicking off the year good. But for 2016, I have to go with Zootopia. And now in 2017, we have my very first live-action Disney remake that I enjoyed in the decade, and that is Beauty and the Beast. Yep, this is the first live-action Disney remake that I actually really enjoyed during the decade. I mean, sure, we got Maleficent, Cinderella, Alice in Wonderland, but this movie I really enjoyed. They really stuck to the roots of how this movie was supposed to go. The story didn't really change that much. Because, like I said, for some of the other Disney live-action remakes with Sleeping Beauty, I mean, they switched it to be Maleficent's story. Cinderella, they changed her real name to just Ella, and they only called her Cinderella because of the twin sisters giving her that nickname. And then we got Alice in Wonderland that was sort of went a little dark, and it was crazy. So this movie is the first one that I really enjoyed that stuck to the original roots of what the animated classic did, and I gotta say, it was incredible. And unlike just the only thing that was different about this movie that was still similar is the story that they tell us at the beginning of the animated classic, where the prince was cursed and stuff. They actually show it to us in this movie, which I thought was okay. It showed us what happened, and the only thing that was sort of different was the whole how all the people who worked in the castle had apparently family members on the outside, but they had their memories wiped until the very end. And that was the only thing that sort of surprised me a little bit, but I still thought it was a great movie. And like I said, with Emma Watson, Miss Hermione Granger herself in the Harry Potter universe coming into this movie as Belle, she did a good job. I know a lot of people say she's not that great. She didn't do that great, but I thought she did great. She really kicked off her career with the Harry Potter franchise, moved on to become Belle in Beauty and the Beast. It was amazing. And I don't know if she's been in any other movies since then, besides, even though this movie I haven't really seen yet. She is in the Little Women movie that got released back in December last year, but that's the only one I can think of that she's currently in, besides this one. So if you know any other movies that Emma Watson has been in since the Harry Potter franchise ended, let me know. But for 2017, I gotta go with sorry, freaking blurriness. There we go. I have to go with Beauty and the Beast. And in 2018, as you can see over here, my very first movie that I really enjoyed of that decade was Avengers Infinity War. Yep. That movie was, I gotta say, it was the culmination of the 10-year span of the first few phases of the Marvel Cinematic Universe. We got almost every single character you can think of, from Doctor Strange, the Guardians of the Galaxy, Hulk, Captain America, Iron Man, Black Panther. Everybody was in this movie, except for obviously some of the Fox characters. But and they are going up against the big baddie of the Infinity Saga, known as Thanos. And they are trying to stop him from collecting all 6 Infinity Stones. And even though we technically didn't get to see how he got the Power Stone when he decimated Xandar, I heard that there could be a film based on that called Nova, like that maybe we see what happens after, now that Nova is no longer has a home. I wonder what's going to happen then. I mean, I don't know what that movie's going to be about, if they ever make it, but I mean, it was rumored that we could have gotten introduced to Nova between Infinity War and Endgame, but we didn't get to see him. So, however, we did get to see a lot of good characters in this movie, especially now with Spider-Man in the universe, at least at the time, which he still is, but I'm so glad that they decided to include him in this story arc. So, like I said, Avengers Infinity War was a pretty good movie in the year 2018, and there's one other movie I really enjoyed in that year, which I will get to right now. And my last film that in 2018 that I really enjoyed, as you can see, is The Incredibles 2. I gotta be honest, this movie was amazing. After 14 years after the last movie's release that we've had to wait for a sequel, we actually get a sequel. I mean, in my honest opinion, when I saw the first movie, I didn't really think we were going to get a sequel. I really didn't think that it was going to really happen. I mean, it just looked like the family would become their little superhero team and everything, but when they made this sequel, I was just like, wow, they really stepped it up on this one. And like I said, they even sort of psyched us out with who the villain truly was. Like, even if you see in the poster that it's some guy named the Screenslaver, but really he was just the fall guy for who the real Screenslaver was. And I gotta say, it was really amazing how this movie went. We got to see the Parr family back in action. We got to see Frozone. We even got introduced to some newer superheroes. We got Edna Mode back in the mix. We got to see Jack's powers revealed to his family for the first time. It was amazing. And even with the way the third movie ended, the ending of this movie happened, I feel like they could make a third movie if they wanted to like end it off as a trilogy. So I'm really hoping they do that. But yeah. So for the last movie that I enjoyed in 2018, I have to go with The Incredibles 2. And finally, with the last year, I have two movies that I really enjoyed this year, like I said. But as you can see from the very first one, it's Avengers Endgame. That's right, the conclusion of the biggest event ever in the Infinity Saga. I mean, sure, we do get the sequel to Spider-Man, though, that still takes place in that movie. That was like the aftermath. But this definitely was the movie that ended off the Infinity Saga so perfectly. And I really enjoyed that final battle sequence when Cap says the words "Avengers Assemble" for the first time, and then everybody starts running into battle, and it was amazing. And another thing that really surprised me about this movie was when it came to who actually made the ultimate sacrifice to stop Thanos, was Iron Man himself. That was pretty crazy, especially when he said the same words he said at the end of the very first movie of the Infinity Saga, and I am Iron Man. Snaps his fingers and wipes out all of Thanos' army, including himself. And even though it did cost Tony Stark his life, and he realized that this was the path he started them all on, and it even says it in the Infinity Saga trailer that this was the path he started them on, and becoming a group of heroes that could protect the Earth and avenge it from big threats. I mean, it was amazing. And I really am excited for the next saga of movies in the MCU, starting with Phase 4, Phase 5. I mean, and there's a lot of good movies that I can probably guess who the next big bad is going to be. It's sort of been confirmed, but I mean, who knows? We'll find out if I'm right. But so this is the first movie of 2019 that I really enjoyed. The next one is going to be a bit surprising. And finally, my last favorite movie of the 2010s decade has to be Harriet. Yep, this was the movie that I saw this movie back in late November last year, and I gotta say, it was amazing. This is the very first film adaptation that they ever told the story of Harriet Tubman, who escaped slavery right before the Civil War began, and almost 14 years later, she would be leading the Combahee River Raid to free over 750 slaves and leading the troops in the battle. I mean, it was insane. It's basically telling her story about how she escaped slavery, went back over 13 times in the span of 10 years, and freed over 300 people before the Civil War began. And I mean, I gotta tell you, I was amazed at how well they did this movie. And I even recently just found out a rumor that before they chose Cynthia Erivo to play the character of Harriet Tubman, the one that they were thinking about choosing before her and before Casey Lemons became the director, I was like, this movie's probably not going to do well at all because of who they were going to pick. I heard that they were going to pick Julia Roberts to play Harriet Tubman, which, first of all, Harriet Tubman was an African-American woman, and Julia Roberts is white. Now, I understand a lot of people were saying, well, Cynthia Erivo is an English woman and was an England woman, and yes, but her skin color was still sort of African American. Plus, they even CGI'd her skin to be even darker in the movie. So that's great the way they did that. And I gotta say, this movie was amazing. I can't believe I actually, like I said, the movie wasn't even on my radar to begin with, but when I saw it and I really enjoyed the movie, I gotta say, it was amazing. So my last favorite movie of the 2010 to 2019 decade has to be Harriet. So that does it for my picks for my best films of the last decade. Now we're gonna be kicking into the 2020 decade, from 2020 to 2029. So around January 2030, I'll probably, if I'm still on here by then, I'll make you a video talking about my favorite films from the whole 2020 decade. But I guess we'll see how long I stay on YouTube since then. But anyways, that's all for now in this video, and I will see all you dudes in the next video.